All right, it's 11 a.m. Adam, are you ready to get going?
I am ready to roll. Let me just get the
Wonderful.
share going for you.
Oh, perfect. All right, while you're doing that, I'll do a few housekeeping things here at the top of the hour. First of all, thank you so much for being here. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kate. I work for a company called Trafera, and I'll just be here during the call just to help with some of the background stuff. Some of the housekeeping things at the top of the hour. If you have questions for Adam, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'll be watching that throughout the session, getting them to him if we find some natural breaks throughout the talk or at the end during Q&A. So feel free to pop them in there as they come up. Secondly, we are doing a giveaway at the end, a little bit of a holiday thank you for everyone who's been joining us. We're giving away a mini projector and a speaker. I'm picturing people for the holidays sitting down to watch some movies with their kids, maybe something really fun. So if you're interested in entering to win that, please stick around until the end and we'll have a really quick survey. And that is pretty much it, actually. So please welcome Adam Garry, former elementary teacher and education innovator who spent 2 decades transforming learning with technology and generative AI. He's a seasoned speaker and co-author of 2 books and has led Dell Technologies education strategy and now supports schools and companies across North America. So let's get going.
All right, thank you. Hey, everyone. And I see some familiar folks out there. Thanks for joining us. This will be a pretty fast-paced hour. If you don't have Gemini open and Notebook LM, you might want to do that because I'm going to try to make this interactive. Also, I have sort of a share in the chat just to get us going. Maybe post one thing that you have done with Gemini, Gems, or Notebook LM in the past month. So if we can get some people to share, that would be awesome. We'll give it a couple of minutes for that. While you're doing that, we're also going to post the agenda for today in there. There's a lot of links that you're going to want to use, especially on the interactive part. So I'm going to post that right now. There's an agenda for you as well. Kate, I don't think we should give out any prizes if people don't post stuff. There we go.
I like that rule.
Resources for an FAQ, IPs, that's a great one. Storybook, nice. Love it. Love to see one of those examples. Let's get a couple more people to post. Created a gem, nice. Ah, yes, the Google, that's a perfect one. Google Admin Console. Posters, yeah, and now with some of the new ability with Nano Banana and infographics, that's getting better. Behavior incidents, yeah, there's lots of great examples. This is why I like to start this way. And for those of you that are out there that do PD on a daily basis or every now and then, it's always good just to get the collective wisdom of the room. Because there's no way in the next hour I'm going to be able to give you every use case for Gemini, Gems, Notebook LM. Here they come. This is awesome. B, there's just so much that folks want to share as they're learning. So allowing them to share is always just a good strategy. All right. So the goal here, if you have the agenda, you'll see it sort of laid out, is to start with Gemini. And I'm just going to basically share some things I've been doing with Gemini. I just want to be completely transparent. And those of you that have been working with me for years know this, that Gemini for me has been a love-hate relationship. I keep telling my friends at Google, like, when is this thing going to get better? I'm just using Claude and ChatGPT, and I want to use Gemini. And then 3.0 came out, and for me, this was definitely the step I was looking for. So I'm super excited about the direction that Google's going with Gemini. So I'm going to share some stuff on that with you today, and just sort of share some things I'm doing around prompting. Then we're going to talk about gems, but instead of me like just talking about it, I'm going to have you try some out, some that I built, some that were built by someone else. And I put a bunch of resources in there to help you if you want to build your own. We'll talk about that. And then Notebook LM, I'm going to show you a bunch of use cases for that. And then one little bonus thing that I thought y'all might be interested in as well. So that'll take us through the whole hour. As Kate said, use the chat window. She'll interrupt me. We're going to get a guest appearance from Joe here in a little bit to share a little bit about Trafera. But for now, a couple of things I just wanted to remind you is, of course, Gemini 3.0 is here. As I stated, I'm pretty excited about that. And with Gemini 3.0, there is a video, which I'm not going to play, but I put it in the agenda and a link to it. For those of you that are doing PD and you just want a succinct way of sharing with people, you know, what's new about Gemini 3.0, there is a video in there for you to play.
Gemini has been...
And as I sort of think about Gemini, I kind of always go back to, as I've been working with school districts, like, how am I helping them be better at being curious? And I want to be very clear, and I'll say it twice. I think prompt engineering is more about being curious, having domain expertise and asking the right questions, than it is about following a certain acronym. So what you see here are some things that I do and that you'll see in my prompts quite often. And they're just things that I want to lead with before I just start showing you a bunch of examples of Gemini. So first off, I tend to give it a role. And when I'm giving a persona, I usually give it more than one. So I say things like, act like an expert in generative AI in K-12, K-12 learning or adult learning or whatever it is, to give it that persona to narrow down the large language model so it knows where to look to find good information in the training. The second thing I do is I'm pretty detailed about the task, the things that I'm looking for. And then from there, you know, I'll ask it for a format. Now, I want to be clear here. The format stuff usually doesn't happen in that first, you know, prompt. This is an iterative process for me. The one thing that I do in the first prompt, though, is I will ask it this top thing where it says, you can ask me 3 questions before you start. If you haven't done that before, I suggest you write that down and you at least try it. I find that I miss a lot of things that if I clarify when it asks me the 3 questions, I get a much better output. And then I did skip this, but in the format, you know, that's things like create a table or create a story or create a song, whatever you're looking for. So I left this in the deck for y'all because I know, again, you know, sometimes it's just a good reminder, like as you're starting out, how do you get these things to actually give you a good output? And the thing that I've been learning recently is this, you can ask me 3 questions before you start is a big deal. All right, so all of that to say, like, Gemini has come a long way. So I just wanted to make sure if you've never clicked on that tools area that you click on that, because now you'll see, you know, you have access to deep research and to create videos, create images. And if you've never used Canvas before, this is not the LMS. And I don't blame Google, I blame OpenAI for this. They were the ones that called it Canvas first. I'm going to show you an example of what this looks like here, but Canvas is that ability to think of like a Google Doc on steroids. So you're in your Gemini window and you're able to edit. It also is where it builds a lot of code for editing as well. So just think of Canvas as sort of like a new skin for you to actually edit as you're building in and using generative AI. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of is, you know, now under thinking, you'll have access to, you know, 3, you'll have access to 3, and that's if you need deeper thinking. But for fast thinking things, remember, you can toggle back and forth between these things. All right, so now I'm going to just show you a series of things that I've been doing with Gemini. And I did leave a video in there for y'all in case you haven't used Canvas before, because I know for some folks you've just never clicked on that, so you maybe don't know that it exists. Not going to play the whole video, but it'll be in there for you. So here's one example of something that I was doing. I was brainstorming for an agenda that I was putting together. And when I was putting the agenda together, it gave me an example, and I was like, you know what? I don't really like this example. So when you highlight it, you can ask it for feedback. And so, it's giving me feedback. And if I like that feedback, I can hit the apply button, and it'll actually apply that feedback to my actual document. You can upload an entire document with a rubric and say, hey, provide feedback, and it'll give you comments just like you would see a human do in a Google Doc. So I use Canvas all the time because I want to be able to edit things, because I don't like to put just, AI slop out there. Here's a prompt, here's the output. So Canvas helps me keep the human in the loop. I'm gonna see if, and Kate, keep me honest here, I want to show some of these things live. So let's see if it'll, if I'm gonna have to stop sharing and reshare for you to see this stuff. So, can you see this now, or my Gemini screen, or do I need to stop sharing? Oh no, here we go, share this tab instead, got it. All right, so here's something that I also often do. I don't know if any of you ever like rage read, but I was reading an opinion post in the New York Times that I thought was pretty terrible, and essentially was like, hey, now we've taken the phones away from kids, let's take their laptops away. And the actual data and information they were using was pretty terrible. So I brought it, I wrote my own critique of it, and then I brought it into Gemini and used Canvas, and I said, hey, I want you to give me feedback on my critique of this of this opinion piece. And what I like is now, like, it says, here's a polished draft. And again, I can just go in there and type as if I'm in a Google Doc. And then I have the ability to share, create, do all sorts of things with this stuff, right? So again, this is just one more use of Canvas. And then here's a third way. Now, this one was pretty cool. I was working with a school district, and we're working with the curriculum team, and they had a bunch of documents that they were trying to utilize. And it was going to take them a long time because they had a spreadsheet, and then it had like 50 documents you had to click on, all this stuff. So I was basically asking Gemini, like, how do I do this? Like, I want to use these documents. Will it click on everything? And it's like, no, it's not going to do that. You need to build an agent. So I went through this whole process. I tried to build an agent. I was failing miserably. So I went back and I said to Gemini, like, hey, that's not working. Like, what can I do here? And the answer it gave me seems very primitive, but it actually worked perfectly. And it basically said, let me keep scrolling, sorry. It basically told me to create a video file. So just literally record my screen with like Screencastify, clicking on all the documents, and then upload the video. And then it would be able to read the video. And that's exactly what it did. And it was, once we were built the gem, it was able to read the screen perfectly. So again, even just like sort of asking Gemini some of these questions will help us. It was going to lead me down this thing to build an agent, but actually after I couldn't do it, I said, hey, that's not working. We went a very different route. So that's all stuff that that I've been doing, and Canvas has been helping me with some of that as I move stuff along. Two other things I want to show you. It's sort of the same prompt, but now I was trying to use Nano Banana and also use some of the video creation. So I gave it this prompt to create an infographic that explains the phases of the perfect day of kindergarten classroom. And I gave it some information here, and it generated this infographic, which was pretty cool, except for I wanted to switch it up. I didn't want home and bedtime, and so then it created this clean up and go home. Great. Well, then I wanted to take it to the next level, and I wanted to create a video. So I then uploaded that infographic, and I said, bring this image to life, animate each little scene. I chose video from my tools, and I got this.
We're still on the infographic screen.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I got to keep hitting share this tab. There we go. All right, let me play it again.
And I don't think you're sharing sound. Oh, there.
Wake up, learn and play. Eat our lunch and take a rest. It's a happy.
So I was able to get from infographic to video in about 2 minutes. So again, just sort of helping you all see, like, Gemini has come a very long way, and use those tools at the bottom to really help drive some of this. Now, the last thing I want to show you is my friend Leon Furs from Australia, who has also been using Gemini, but he's been using it to actually build resources and build applications. So I want you to see basically how he's prompting it too, because he has this really good point here about sometimes it doesn't even know what it can do. So let me play this for you for a second.
And last of all, back in Google Gemini, just the regular gemini.google.com version, something a little bit more complex. I've asked it to create a science fiction world building simulator. Now, I also asked it to incorporate the Gemini chatbot and the Nano Banana image generator. And on my first attempt, it didn't seem to realize that it could actually do that without using an API key. Within Google Gemini, if you're using the canvas mode, which I've spoken about in other articles on my blog previously, the Gemini coding facility should allow it to incorporate Gemini chatbots, image generation, and all of these things without needing an API or any external access. So I got something sort of halfway there with the first prompt. In the second prompt, I've said, build it again, call the image gen, call the Gemini chatbot, and remember that in this canvas environment, you don't actually need to use an API key. And again, one of the frustrating and slightly weird things about many of these generative AI platforms is they really often they just don't understand what they're capable of. They'll frequently tell you that they can't do things that they can, or that they can do things that they can't. So I did end up with a working simulator for some science fiction world building. I've got some sliders which allow me to change surface, gravity, atmosphere, temperature. And if I hit this button here that says run full simulation, you can see that I do have now the image generation incorporated. It takes a little while, but it will generate a visualization. You can probably just about see at the bottom of the screen there the prompt that it uses.
All right, so you can start to see that now we're going quickly into vibe coding with Gemini. And again, he didn't write one line of code. He essentially just used natural language processing to build this. All right, so I'm gonna now, I'm gonna shift over to Gems, but before I do that, I'm gonna stop sharing this. And I'm gonna turn it over to Joe, so he can share a little bit about Trafera.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. Well, hey, everybody. My name is Joe Smizer. I'm a senior Google Workspace engineer with Trafera. If you're new to us, Trafera is your one-stop shop for all things hardware, software, licenses, and so much more. It's really incredible seeing what tools like Gemini and NotebookLM can do. But I think we all recognize that as exciting as AI is, it adds a whole new layer of complexity to how we manage our Google environments. And that could be everybody from educators to Google admins. And that's exactly why our Google services are here. We want to ensure that your technical foundation is strong enough to support all these new innovations as they come out. And for us, it starts with security. We offer a comprehensive health and security audit where we take a look at your domain, your security, organization, devices, and apps. There are hundreds of policies and settings inside the admin console, and it's critical that you have those set up to protect your students, your staff, and your district. And this is really true when you're turning on AI features. You need to be sure that you know exactly how your data is being handled and what access is out there. Our Google services go beyond just audits, though. We offer a complete set of tools to support your entire life cycle of technology. And like I mentioned, that includes technical services, data migrations, software licenses, devices, and more. For ongoing management, we also offer premium support with guaranteed response times and even a fully managed service option. if you need our team to step in and handle the heavy lifting for you. And lastly, we empower your team through technical training. We cover critical topics like data privacy, using Gemini to improve your district cybersecurity, as well as our deep dive Google Workspace for admin boot camps for level 1, level 2, and Chrome OS. I would encourage you to keep an eye out for a survey that will be shared with you immediately after this event. You can use that survey to request more information on Trafera, Google AI Pro for Education, as well as tools like Gemini and Notebook LM that you're seeing today. I'll let you get back to the session. I'll hand it back over to Adam. But again, please reach out if we can ever help you with Google Workspace or anything else.
There is one question that can go to either Adam or Joe. Julie was wondering, is the video feature in Gemini an upgraded feature? She doesn't seem to have access to that option in her account.
And so Joe, you probably have to answer that. So VO, she's not seeing VO3. Is it only in the Pro account?
I didn't think it was, but I will get an answer, and we'll have an answer by the time. Is it? Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Russ.
it is. Yeah, it is in the premium. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. So we're gonna shift now over to gems, and I'm sort of going to try to do a couple of things. One is I want you to practice just using one, and I want to show you some ways that you can actually edit things that are already out there, and I'm going to tell you why you'd want to do that in a second. And then we're going to talk about building them, and what does that look like? And after we do the gems part, then we're going to get into Notebook LM. Okay. So this is where you're going to want your agenda. So Kate will drop it in there one more time, just in case. Just in case you don't have it in there. And there we go, I hear you. Okay, so just as a reminder, I don't want to take it for granted that everyone knows what a gem is when I say it. The reason I don't want to take it for granted is, like a couple of weeks ago, I asked Gemini a question about gems, and it sent me to a website for an organization called Gems. So I'm not sure that everyone knows what a gem is. So let's start there. A gem basically is a little piece of software that you can build using natural language processing that allows you to then share this out so other people can use it to build something, create something, ask questions, whatever your output is that you're looking for. It's using the power of Gemini, and it's also creating a prompting record for them, because there's some difference between when you would use a gem and when you'd use a notebook, right? If you want all that functionality of Gemini, you want that record of the prompt, and you want someone to follow a process, it's a really good idea to maybe build a gem. The first thing, though, I want you to do, if you've never experienced one, is to experience one. If you have, I want you to actually maybe click on the edit buttons and try some of that in a second. So in the agenda, and let me switch tabs here, see if I can get you to another tab. Here we go. Actually, let's share this tab first. So in the agenda, you're going to see a couple of things, because I don't want to presume that everyone on the call is working on teaching and learning. There's some folks that might be on the operations side. So I've sort of built two things here for you. One is, I'll show you a website that Eric Kurtz built, that he's got a bunch of gems on there that are more on the instructional side. And then what I built is more on the operational side or leadership side. And so I built two gems. One is a procedure simplifier. The other is the meeting prep assistant. And I built it so that, you can try it. So that would be this link right here. You can click on that. You could try it out, see what you think. But also, if you're using it and you're like, this thing's terrible and I know how to make it better, or it doesn't meet my need, but I sort of like how this thing starts, you click on this link to edit. It will open it up into the gem window, and you can go in there and, like I said, use natural language processing.
Adam, can you switch your tab again? We're on the agenda.
Yeah, that's where I want you to be first.
Okay.
Yep. So again, if you want to kind of just use the ones that I created, they're here in the agenda. But if you are on the teaching and learning side, let me share this tab. These are the ones that Eric has created. And you'll see he's done something very similar where if you click on any of these, so let's just say you click on Career Explorer, it'll give you a link to the gem, but it will also let you make your own copy of that gem, and you can then edit that copy, and then you own that, just like the one that I did, okay? Now, I want to also be clear on one thing, is that like he built a lesson plan one. And the reason why I like the way that he did this is because most of the lesson plan or the unit plan things that are out on the web right now are terrible. The reason for that is because they just use the large language model, and most of the unit plans on the web are not good. So it's sort of garbage in, garbage out. But once you click on this, if you make a copy, what you can do is what's called grounding, right? So let me click get the link and share this tab. So now it shows you how he built it. But now, as a district leader or a teacher, what you could do is say, like, you know what, I want to actually make sure that the template they use is our district template, or the template I use. And you can then upload that template in here, and then that gem will always use that template so that you don't have it just using the large language model. It actually is pulling from a template. So just be cognizant on a lot of these things, especially if you build your own gems, which we'll get into in a little bit. Like, you want to ground it in something. It has to have a strong knowledge base. And we have been spending decades in education building amazing resources that unfortunately people have not been using. Now we could go grab those things, build them into our knowledge base, and then they'll actually be using it for the output, and we'll get better outputs for teachers. So here's your task. I want you to click on a gem, either from Eric or the ones that I created. Try one out for a little bit. Maybe copy one to see what that looks like. And then after about 5 minutes or so, I'm going to pull you all back together, see if folks want to share. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to come back into the window, and I will, if there are any questions, go ahead and drop those in, and I'll also look at the questions. So we'll start about a 5-minute timer, and I'll give you a 30-second. But go ahead and try out some of those gems. All right, folks, we got about 30 seconds. All right. If you found something useful, you can drop it in the chat. If you found something annoying, you can drop that in the chat. You could also come off of mute if you wanted to share something or ask a question. We've kind of put a few minutes here for that. All right. It's like we have someone raised your hand. Let's see, open the queue. Do we have to unmute people, Kate? I don't know what you got going on here. Kate, do we need to allow people to talk or unmute them, or can they unmute themselves?
I am looking to see how to unmute. I apologize.
I think we can unmute ourselves.
All right,
Cool.
so whoever raised their
Oh.
hand, you unmute and go for it. Oh, could
Yeah.
be a district setting.
Yeah, Davin?
It's David.
David.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there you are, David. Go for it.
So I use the meeting prep assistant. I'm actually I have some experience with the tools, but I have a PD I'm giving for staff next month, and so I just made a prompt about 2-hour meeting agenda on Google Notebook, Element, Gemini Gems. I gave it the role of a K-12 technology director, and so it gave me an agenda that has the welcome and the welcome and sandbox for the first 15 minutes, a deep dive of 45 minutes, a break. So it has a nice itinerary. And I like that when I clicked on the edit it, I can see the instructions that you gave. So that kind of helps me to see, how I can do something similar. How to share that or change that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, that's great feedback. The other thing I would suggest to you, so I do this all the time. That's what gave me the idea to build the gem, is also like when you use these tools, they'll say like, yeah, build this, this document. And then I say, yeah, you build it. And it's never 100%, but it definitely saves me hours of time. So also when you use these things, if you're building PD and it says like, yeah, build this process document, you just say, yeah, no, you build it. And that saves time as well. All right, Julie, you're up.
I had been giving PD, last year using Gemini, helping teachers create rubrics. That was something that, they always want help with. And I have been starting dabbling in gems recently and just saw Eric Kurtz's gem for creating rubrics. And I'm like, oh my God, how did I not think of that? And so that's my next round. I'm going to try to share out with teachers, like, how you were using Gemini. Now, how much easier is this even going to be? That's amazing.
Great. Yeah, that's great feedback. There's a guy, David Ross, who used to do all the PBL stuff for years and years and years. He also built a rubric generator. I think it might be a GPT, but you should search for that as well because he's grounded it in some really good rubrics. For those of you on here that just use like ChatGPT or Gemini to build a rubric, just know like they're pretty terrible. Like you have to ground these things in good rubrics. Yeah.
I was going to say, we have a very strong teaching and learning department. So I have worked with them through the iterative process of the rubric building. So we have a whole bunch of teaching and learning documents. Like we have so many documents in our district. So I'm going to have so many things to be able to ground it in. So that's where it's going to be amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. Glad to hear you say that because that's the route for sure. All right. Was one more person want to share before we jump into Notebook, Ellen? Actually, I had one more thing on gems, then we'll get into Notebook, Ellen. All right. Well, the chat is always there, my friends. That's what it's for. All right. Some folks, I think I even saw it come up in the chat. It's like, well, when would I build a gem? When would I build a notebook? I'm actually working in a district today with operations folks as they're solving problems, and we're building things. Sometimes it's a gem, sometimes it's a prompt, sometimes it's a notebook. How do you know? And so these are the sort of the things that the checklist I'll go through in my head is I'm like, what should it be? And with a gem, sometimes there is a very strict process that you want someone to go through to build whatever the output is. And so because you have control over a step-by-step process with a gem that you don't have with a notebook, it's always a good idea to use a gem for things like that. You also, might want to ground it in resources, which you could definitely do in Notebook LM. But again, remember, in Notebook LM, it doesn't save that chat history, and you're not getting the Canvas functionality. You get things like slides and a bunch of other stuff I'm about to show you, but it doesn't sort of save that chat history for you or give you some of the functionality you get in Gemini. So as you're thinking about, well, is this a good use for a gem? Think about like, what do I want people to do with the information? What do I want the output to be? Because that will also help you. We're obviously not going to have time to build gems right now, but what I put in the agenda for you is resources that will walk you through step by step. I also put my template in there for you. So the gems that you see are from a template that I use that I've been using for years to build GPTs and now gems. And what I do is I upload that template, and once I upload the template, then I say, hey, I want to create a gem about this. Fill out this template with the instructions. Then I drop that into a Google Doc, and I, as the human, edit that, and then I bring it into my gem. So it's sort of a 3-step process. It's all laid out for you in the agenda, everything you would need. But I wanted to make sure that if you go down that path to build a gem, you have everything you need for that. All right, now to the star of the show, my friend Notebook LM. For those of you that have been using Notebook, you probably recognize that if you go way too long and you log back in, you go, what? Now I can do all these things? Like just this morning, we realized that in Notebook LM, if you upload a Google Sheet, and it has multiple tabs at the bottom, it'll actually read through all the multiple tabs. So I didn't know that. Tried it this morning and it worked. But with the integration of Nano Banana into Notebook LM, we are getting quite an impressive bit of functionality. And so I'm just going to walk you through some examples that show off some of Notebook LM's functionality. For some of you that have been using this for a while, some of it will be old hat, but there are some new things that you maybe haven't seen yet. So just bear with me. So I'm going to stop presenting for a second so I can show you a different screen. And you should see a notebook coming up. Everyone see that? All right, so this is the California about a month ago, passed 17 new AI laws. And what I did is I actually built a notebook with all these. And someone would say, well, I don't live in California, I don't care. A couple of things to note. One is if you're following what's going on with the federal laws that they're legislation that they might want to pass, like a lot of it's being pulled from this. Second, reminder to folks that California is the 4th largest economy in the world, and 32 of the 50 largest AI companies' home office in California. Why is that important? Well, basically because if these companies have to follow the laws in California, that will have a cascading effect around the country. So I put all this in here so you could start to obviously chat with it, as you know, with ChatGPT, but I also had it create a briefing document of all 17 laws. So in case anyone wanted to get a briefing of all these laws, it builds briefing documents now. And then obviously I created the PowerPoint. I created the podcast, but I don't know if any of you have ever used the interactive mode. So just wanted to make sure you saw that. If you play it in interactive mode, I can now click on join.
The
Can you
audio
tell-
from your podcast isn't playing.
It isn't? Okay, thank you. Hold on a second. I thought that was someone else saying thank you for that. Let me just stop sharing and reshare. Give me 1 second. Oops. Mhm. I have too many tabs open. I know none of you have this problem. Let's see. Why it's not? Let's try this again. All right, let's try this one more time. I know if you can hear the audio here.
No audio.
All right, well, they are linked in the document for you. I don't know why it's not playing my audio all of a sudden. Let me try it one other way because I want you to hear this. I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to share my entire screen. And then I'm going to go back. All right. Can you see my notebook again?
Yes, we can.
All right. No audio that time?
No audio that time either.
Yeah. All right. So the one thing I wanted to show you is that when you're using these, if you click on the hand, it'll actually allow you to join and ask any questions of anything that you've actually put into your notebook. And in a second, I'm going to show you what a school district has done with all of their language arts stuff, but that's very useful because what I was going to do is say, hey, what's in here about deepfakes? And then it would just pull up everything that's in the laws now about deepfakes. So I wanted to make sure I know most people have seen the deep dive stuff or how to create a podcast, but maybe you didn't know that you can interact with your podcast. So that's one thing. The second thing is that they now updated the audio overviews, if you click on that pencil, to where you don't just have to do a deep dive anymore. You can now do a brief, a critique, or a debate. And obviously now they have it in over 40 languages. I think it was at one point I thought it was 80, but it looks like 40 languages, which you can also use. You can change the length, and also again you can, give it some custom information here. And so for this one, what I did is I actually had it create a debate between two different people. One was on, is nuclear energy good to help with the climate issues we have, or is it not going to be sufficient? And the two hosts go back and forth debating. And so that could sort of be an interesting thing where you have kids actually take a stand on something, then you play the debate, then you have them then debate, as humans do, right? So that they can see what a function looks like on a debate. So again, if you haven't used that debate function, I wanted to make sure you saw that was there. So this, also now it's creating slides. So you see here, you can click on the slide deck. You get some things, but I want to show you what it looks like. So this is the actual slide deck that it has now generated from an article that that somebody created that I thought was really, really good. So now I can click through the slide deck. I can also download this in any way that I want. And this is a slide deck that was literally just based on an article. And the outputs are pretty good. Just a couple more for you. The infographic stuff. So remember I showed you earlier, here's what I use to actually build a gem. And I uploaded that document that I was talking to you about. So here's the role, the goal, the definitions. So now there's a couple of things I could do with this. One is I told it to create an infographic. So if you wanted to see what those steps look like in an infographic, it generated an infographic for me so that I could share that in my PD now. But I can also now kind of tell it to use this template and, create a, or so use the template to create a gem for rubrics. And because the way Notebook LM works, it's only going to use what it's grounded in. You can see that it's using exactly the template that I uploaded. So another way to sort of get it to give you the directions and the process, you can do it right in a notebook. Again, I was showing you the infographic technique. Okay, and one other one I wanted to show you is a school district I've been working with. They were like, we basically, they thought they wanted to build a lesson plan sort of builder for teachers. And as we got more and more into the conversation, it was like, I don't know that you want a lesson plan builder. It sounds like you already have all your lesson plans. Maybe you just need a notebook because you want teachers to be able to access, all of the resources. So what they did is they built this for their language arts teachers. And basically what this is on the left, you see every resource, every lesson plan, every piece of content. They grounded it in research. And so a teacher can come in here now. They can ask any questions about the units. They can ask for an individual lesson. They can put a standard in and it'll give them the lessons in here that are about that standard. They're going to generate podcasts, so you can actually talk to the notebook and ask it questions. So they're just sort of trying to put everything in one place for the teachers. And this is just a supplemental kind of notebook that sits aside all on their curriculum website as something else teachers can use as they try to understand, what's in their curriculum documents and resources. So that was another, pretty interesting use of Notebook LM. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and see if we have any questions about Notebook LM.
No questions in the chat, but feel free to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself if you have questions.
All right. So for the bonus, how many, raise your hand if you've ever tried out Google's AI Studio? Yeah, there we go, a couple. Justin definitely likes it. Look, there's an exclamation point there. So let me explain what it is here for a second. AI Studio is where Google essentially will sort of put things before it releases it to the public for people to try out. So they sort of use it as like a test bed. There is like for Gemini 3.0, I was able to go in here and test Gemini 3.0 before it was, rolled out into Gemini. And it's not just like the large language models. They put all sorts of functionality in here for people to test out. So all the stuff you see with like Notebook LM, they're testing out voices. And I think functionality that actually winds up showing up in Notebook LM is stuff that people test here first. So like Nano Banana, the image generation tool was in AI Studio before it showed up in everything else. For those of you that are on a school network, some of you might try to get to this and it's blocked. That's probably a good idea. Again, this is all stuff that's sort of in pilot, and so maybe it should be blocked. But from home, I recommend, if you're not doing anything nefarious, to take a look at Google AI Studio. I thought I would just show you at least one example of something that I messed around with. So you heard Kate sort of at the beginning, give my bio. But they have this tool now that allows you to select a number of different voices. You can also create, whatever information you want this thing to say, and then it creates an audio file for you. So let's see. We're going to try audio again. I don't know why the sound wasn't working before, but let's try audio again. See what happens.
With over 2 decades of expertise in consulting, Adam Garry guides educational institutions on their journey toward digital and student-centered learning transformations.
He recently led Della Technologies' Education Innovation and Strategy for 14 years and has been a speaker at prominent conferences around the world.
Adam has contributed articles.
So basically all I did was I went into, let me share this tab. I went into the playground in Google AI Studio and I selected the voice piece, and I put my own script in. On the right-hand side, it allows you to change the voices and pick the voices that you want. And then you can see on that bottom, it then generates an audio file for you. And then you can download that audio file and use it any way you want. This is just one thing that you can do in Google AI Studio. If you're like interested in cutting edge and wondering where things are going, this is where, you know, you might want to geek out and spend a little bit of time. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a second because we have a couple minutes here, and see if there's just any overarching questions before I turn it back over to Kate. Oh, Justin created an app. Nice, buddy. Thanks for sharing. Should we click on it, folks, or is he going to launch a virus into my computer? What do you think? Do we trust Justin is the question.
You're asking the right questions, though.
The API license. Yeah, well, I don't know that the school would have to purchase the API license. Justin, I think you would have to do that, and then you would want to charge people to use your thing. Let's see his face first. Julie, I like that.
Yeah, we're trying to create some different apps to be able to use inside the school, and the issue that we're running into is the API licensing. And so we're just trying to make life as simple for our staff as possible.
So this could be a rusty question, but one thing you might consider is using an open source LLM, because then you don't have the API costs. You just have to run it locally. And I'm sure Rusty and team could probably help you set something like that this way, because I know you got to control for cost. You can't be like, oh, we set this up and we'll just pay at the end of the month whatever the API cost is, right?
Yeah, this is free for 90 days right now. So
yeah, that's a good question. Maybe Trafera could help you with just setting up something locally. Any other questions or comments, folks? All right. Well, I first of all, thank you for spending some time with me. I know everyone's very busy. I am going to turn this back over to Kate. I want to thank my friends at Trafera for providing an audience for me today. And my contact information is in the slide deck, which is in the agenda. So if anyone needs anything, please reach out. And Kate, I will share that.
Yeah, great.
For you.
You're thanking us. We're thanking you, Adam. That was great. Thank you so much for the content, bringing some of your folks over to meet us. So on your screen right now, like I said at the beginning, we're doing a little giveaway, a little bit of a way to say thank you at the end of the year for people who have joined us for some of these sessions. So the way to enter to win, just scan that QR code or click the link that I just put in the chat. It's just a couple questions to help us get to know you a little bit better, and give you an opportunity, actually, if you're interested in some of Trafera's Google services, for you to indicate that so we can reach out to you and follow up with you later. So really quick, really easy, and is your way to enter to win. We'll be drawing that after the session and letting the winner know then. And that is pretty much it. We also have another event for Google next week. If you have some time, next Wednesday, we're hosting a half-day training for both teachers and administrators on AI and security, all in Google Workspace. I'm going to put the link to that in there. It is totally free. We're providing DoorDash gift cards. There will be some more giveaways, and it's, again, just a free training as a thank you for everyone at the end of the year and a little bit of a holiday celebration. So feel free to register for that. That was a lot of words all at the end to kind of close it out, but the main message here is thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Joe and Adam and everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon. We'll leave the call open for a little bit longer so you can access that, that survey. But thank you so much, and until next time.
Yeah, hey, Kate, I'm going to have to drop because I got to go do a training. So
No problem. We'll just keep it open with the links and everything so people can access them for a little while longer, but we're all done here. Thanks, everyone.